All right, y'all, I got a special treat for you guys. I have a dear friend of mine, somebody that I truly look up to, just an awesome human being, a businessman, a coach, a youth baseball coach, a college baseball coach. I mean, he's done so many things for the community and just an awesome human being, a serial entrepreneur. Um, Upwards of $2 or $3 billion in sales and just an awesome treat. So today we have Logan Stout, and really quick, Logan, before I jump into kind of the heart of our conversation here, one term that kind of goes around and it kind of floats in and out of some of these interviews, and I'll be on podcast interviews with other people, and they talk about they're a serial entrepreneur, but they don't have any sales. They're struggling, and so what that kind of says to me is that they've started a bunch of things, they've had a ton of ideas, but they're struggling a little bit. So kind of in your life, I know you've had a ton of success. What do you say, what is the number one piece of advice you might be able to give somebody that is trying to make it?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. It's great to be here. Hope the family's doing well, and it's interesting. I've worn a lot of hats, as you kind of referenced, right? From founding, creating, owning companies to professional baseball to ministry to all across the boards. And so I think for me, I'm a serial entrepreneur. Not until I get bored. No, I mean, for me, I think honestly, I look for things that'll add value to the world and add value to people's lives, and that's really my litmus test. If I can't tell myself, hey, I would share this with people if there was no compensation attached, I would do that. If I can't say yes to that, then to me, it's not a viable business, right? Because to me, I don't like selling. I don't think people like being sold. I think people like being told, and people like to have great things shared with them. And so for me, all the companies I've created, they were purely from the heart of I want to add value to humanity. I want to make this world a better place. And so you find it, whether it's products, I've had CPG companies, I've had direct sales companies, I've had sports organizations, obviously. I think the one common theme, if you look at things I've done, it was for the purpose of trying to make the world a better place and to try to help people. And I think too many times entrepreneurs get wrapped up in how much money they can make versus the difference they can make.
Yeah.
And I think the more people you impact, the more money you're gonna make, right? The more people you impact, the more people are going to compensate you for that, right? And I think that's the biggest piece of advice I like to give to people is don't get caught up in the money, right? Stay focused on the purpose, and the money will follow. And I just think I've seen too many people, they get excited about the money they see in front of them and what they can make, and they end up not making any money. And because the truth is this, entrepreneurship, it's going to cost more, it's going to be more stressful, and it's going to take longer than you ever imagined.
Yeah.
That's how you know it's worth it, right? But the key is you have to have something that you truly believe in your heart is going to make a difference, and it adds value. If not, you're going to burn out. I mean, 'cause you're going to burn out anyway if you're an entrepreneur. I mean, I've run my own companies for almost 3 decades now, and I don't care what you do, it just gets tiresome, right? You buy a brand new car, the new car scent wears off eventually.
Yeah, it does.
The honeymoon phase is going to end, and the real work begins, no matter what it is. I think as long as you can put your head on your pillow every night knowing that you're making a difference, and you hear people, even the books I've written, right? When people see me or they say to them, hey, that book really made an impact on my life. It's those little moments that I think, at least for me, it makes a huge difference when people just feel like you added value to them. I think it's a big deal. And I think for entrepreneurs, that'd be my advice, is find something you truly believe in, that you truly think is going to add value to the world. And then in my opinion, that's when you deserve to be compensated for it.
Yeah. And so what is they're talking about value, and I think we can define value in so many different ways. For me, if I'm adding value as a father, it's how I'm leading my family, or if it's in my profession, it's, I have a really good opportunity to lead other professions or other professionals, what I do every day for my profession. But so for me, my value meter is, how can I impact people relationally? What is your meter? What is your value meter? How can somebody tell, hey, this product is going to provide value outside of my scope of practice? Because a lot of the times, even businesses that I've tried to start, it comes from solving problems that directly affect me, and then the business kind of fails because it was my problem alone, or or I didn't do a good enough job marketing or advertising or networking. So what is your value meter? How would you suggest somebody applies value in a particular way as far as entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I mean, I think relative to what you have personally experienced, I think ultimately, um, sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Sometimes it's not how you say it, it's what you say. Sometimes timing's wrong, right? I mean, I was on a television show called Elevator Pitch. It was me, the founder of Netflix, Mark Randolph, and Kim Farrell. And Mark, founded Netflix. We were laughing backstage, and how it took like 17 years for Netflix to hit on, or something like that. Don't quote me on that exact number, but it was a long time. And companies like Starbucks, and there's a bunch of them out there that they're a 17-year overnight success, right? And I think with entrepreneurship, I think too many people give up too soon. Because the way I look at it is this: you're going to have some pioneers that buy into whatever it is you're doing, right? Your vision. Those are very few of those people. Then you're going to have what I call early adopters. Okay? There's a little bit more of them, but still, they're hard to find, right? So you have pioneers. I mean, these are your foundational level folks. There's not a lot of them. And you have your early adopters, right? And then you have mass consumption. The consumers buy into it, right? And I mean, I look back on social media. I remember before there was social media, obviously, and I remember when people were getting on social media, and you had to get MySpace, whatever, and you had your pioneers. This is amazing. Let's do this, and they were sharing it. And then some people like me are like, I'm not doing that, right? And then you had your early adopters, right? They're like, yeah, this sounds cool. I've seen my friend's been doing this for a month or so. Yeah, it sounds cool. It seems harmless. Yeah. And then you have everyone else, like myself, go, all right, let's jump on the train. You know, and so it's no different than the Apple iPhone. I was one of the last guys on the planet to get Apple. I love my little keyboard, and and so
where you send your emails, huh?
Yeah, and so it's you have your pioneers. They're the ones that camp out outside when the new phone's coming out. And then you have your early adopters. They'll go in there in the first week with the new phone. And you have people like me. My phone crashes, I'll go get another one. That's kind of how I operate. And so entrepreneurship's that way. It doesn't matter what you're selling. It's as long as the product adds value to people's lives. You don't have to add value to every person's life, but there's a market niche there that we're going to buy into that, right? Then it's failing long enough until you succeed. The journey isn't. It takes a lot of work.
Yeah, there's a buddy of mine that is trying to get a business off the ground, and he is in a digital world where AI is paramount for him. But what he's finding is there's a ton of false beliefs around AI, and there's a lot of people against it. Do you use AI in any of your companies, and how do you use it, and kind of what are the complications that you're facing?
Yeah, I mean, I think AI is everybody's using it, whether you know it or not. I mean, AI it's going to be as common as salt and pepper, honestly. And so the key is how you use it, how you don't get abused by it. And so we've got companies using AI that I own and founded. Honestly, I'm not involved in the day-to-day of any of the businesses anymore. Mostly I'm doing keynote speaking for corporations and businesses and mentoring. And then, I took on this passion project, head baseball coach at the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. And so that's really what's occupying my time. But I do know the folks that I hired who are in the, I know for a fact that we're investing in AI and all those things. But I'm at a chapter in my life where I'm more focused on being a dad and a husband and coaching coaching division college and mentoring folks and doing keynote speaking. So I'm really into that.
I know you do a ton of keynote speaking, and obviously I've read your books and I've heard you speak, and honestly, you're just the type of person that I'd run through a wall for you, especially after hearing you speak. And so how are you booking the keynotes? Now I assume you're at a point in your life where people are calling you, but how'd you get started? What was the struggle, and kind of where are you at now? How many do you do in a year?
Yeah, great question. How many I do a year was a lot more before COVID, right? So I was doing a couple hundred a year, and then before I had kids. Now, honestly, I probably need to. I had a team running the Logan Stout brand, loganstout.com, and and all that. And then COVID hit, everything just, the world came to a stop for a little while. And I was doing virtual stuff, and which is great. I still do those. A big bank hired me to do a webcast for their 4,800 employees yesterday. But I like being in person, honestly. I love being in person. And I think there's a reason concerts sell out. There's a reason.
And you have a special gift to work a crowd, man.
Well,
there's people out there that get up there and they look frozen. That is 100% not you.
Oh, I appreciate that. I just want to make a difference, And so you asked how I got into it. When I first had success, roughly 25 years ago, we kind of launched something on the front page of the Dallas Morning News and just having a lot of success. And it just sort of naturally happened. People were, hey, would you mind coming and speaking to our company? No problem. I'll never forget one time somebody said, hey, how much do you charge? And I was like, charge? No, I'm good for free.
Yeah.
Like, what? I'm like, yeah, no, I'm happy to help. And there was that got out of control. Then we had to, I had an agent, and they're like, listen, you have to charge. You don't want to can't be all things to all people, and you got to guard your time too. And so for me, yes, I charge, but I work with people's budgets because I can do that. And but my agent handles that. But honestly, most all the speaking engagements now, they just come in organically. There's no outreach. It's like I spoke at the ABCA conference, and people hear you speak, and then they happen to be affiliated with another group, and then it just word of mouth spreads. And so it's big firms, banks, universities, professional sports teams. It's pretty much every industry, because I've been involved in almost every industry. So, and I'm blessed to have success in almost every industry. But what I love training on is leadership. A big tour I've been on recently is how to be a visionary leader for you and those counting on you. So I love doing that. Entrepreneur Magazine had me out.
Yeah, tell me about that. So leading those who are, what was the title? Leading those who are counting on you or depending on you?
So I kind of like, if you think of a band, they go on their tour, right? They have a tour, and then next year they come out with a new album, right? And so I have a bunch of topics, obviously, but the one I thought was very pertinent to what everybody was going through in the world. I think a lot of people go through life. I choose to intentionally grow through life, and I try to help do that, right? Don't accidentally exist through life, but intentionally design your life. And so when I saw people just getting bogged down in the news and all this stuff going on, I basically came up with the 10 keys to being a visionary leader for you and those counting on you, right? So who does that apply to? Everybody, right? When you're a leader, at the very least, you're leading yourself. And so, opportunity is not for just a few people. It's for the people that can see the opportunity, right? And the big deal about vision is the ability to see things others don't. That's what vision is, to see what others don't see. You got two people looking at the same exact thing. One person gets it, the other person doesn't. The rest is history. And so, but obviously, I'll be speaking here next week on Grit Factor, the book I wrote, the 15 attributes of grit. And I think that's a huge thing for people, just being able to grind through adversity. It's hard in a microwave.
Yeah, we're going to face it. Yeah, we're facing adversity. And, I read a book recently, and it was by Napoleon Hill, and he talks about fear versus faith. And I think if people are motivated by fear, when they face that adversity, it's their mind stops this creative production on how to get through it. And, I think your grit factor, your book is just something that's motivating for people just to understand that, adversity is going to come. Adversity is going to come, and are you willing to take it head on? And then what are the tools that you can apply to your life to overcome it?
Yeah, what's interesting is I love the tag Fatherhood Secrets. I love that. One of the things I love pouring into are dads, man, and just men and it's interesting, being a Division I college coach. I'm coaching 40 young men, right? They're 18 to 24 years old, and it's amazing how a lot of them, one of them came up and hugged me. He said, "You're the first person that's ever believed in me."
Yeah.
I'm like, man, you're 22 years old. What?
Huge.
And so it's just like there's a lot of young men that didn't have an active, engaged father figure.
Yeah. There's 19 million. The statistic is 19 million are without a father right now in the United States. That's bigger than Las Vegas, LA, Dallas, New York City combined.
Well, that's without a father. That's not counting the ones that do have a father, but the fathers aren't on point.
Exactly.
So, the bottom line, Maddie, we should host a live event, like a leadership event for men. And I'd love to do them. That'd be a lot of fun.
I got a venue too.
Do what now?
I got a venue too.
Yeah, do it. Let's do it. You know what's so funny is, you asked that question earlier about like how do I get all these speaking? I would love to have more. To be honest with you, I need to hire somebody. I need to bring somebody. I'm going to bring you on board, Maddie, and have you run my stuff.
I do it too. Hey, and so back to coaching just for a second. So for those who are going to see this, so I met Logan, and he started coaching my son, and my son didn't really know baseball. We kind of got recommended to baseball because we were playing catch in the yard, and my neighbor saw my son was left-handed, and he said, do you play baseball? And I'm like, no, we don't watch baseball. We don't play baseball. We don't know anything with baseball. It's the world's most boring sport for me. And my neighbor seen potential in my son because he's left-handed. And then I was introduced to this man, Logan Stout, and to this day, now you coached Landon from 6 to I would say almost 9 years old. To this day, he's had multiple coaches, some that are really good, some that are not so good. To this day, if I asked him, hey, where do you want to go? Where do you want to be? Who do you want to play for? It's Logan Stout. 100%. It's because you believe in kids and you have this knack for pulling things out of them that they didn't know existed. And when you talk about coach and the example you gave with a 22-year-old coming up to you and say, thanks for believing in me. As a coach, some people force it and you don't have to. How do you do that?
Oh no, man, but you get me emotional. So tell Landon I said hi, man. I miss that little dude. But I don't know. I believe, if I'm being really transparent with you, which is all I know how to be, I believe that every single human being is a child of God, and I believe that the world can beat out that child in all of us. It's interesting, when you're young, you have all these dreams and hopes and wishes, and then as you get older, the world kind of beats them out of you, and then people just end up existing, right? And they don't wake up excited every day. They don't go to sleep excited about the next day. They celebrate Hump Day Wednesday, right? They get that sick feeling in their stomach on Sunday nights. So they got to go back to work on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a deep passion for humanity, just for people to realize that you're meant for more. But the number one key to accomplishing more is you have to have an unwavering belief that you were made for more, that you were built for more. When I say more, I'm talking about more fulfillment, more purpose, more joy and happiness, not just money and success. That stuff's fine, but I know people with a lot of money and success that are miserable. So
yeah, I have a good friend here I met in Boise. His name is Jeremy DeLuca, and he started bodybuilding.com, he and his brother. And I mean, he's uber rich. He has tons of cash. He's not struggling for cash. They had a daughter that passed away really, really young. And I believe she was either a toddler or less, so three and younger. And we've had some pretty intimate moments and intimate conversation. And he'd give it all away in a second to have his daughter back. Mm-hmm. And when you say success and how you define success, money is not the if you put your money in value, you're going to be left wanting more over and over. And Ecclesiastes chapter 3 talks about there's a time for war, there's a time for peace, there's a time for success, there's a time for going through these seasons. And that man, he's an amazing guy, a lot like you. He's just got this charismatic ability to connect with people and build relationships. But he said he would trade it all in a heartbeat to have his daughter back.
Yeah, no doubt, man. That's the one thing you can't get back is time. And it's that's one thing for me. I've always tried to make sure I give the best of me to those that mean the most to me. And I think a lot of people mess up on their talking about entrepreneurship coming full circle. I think too many people, they give their leftover time to the people that mean the most to them. And I think as I've matured and gotten older, some people get older and dumber. Some people get older and wiser. Right? And so as I've matured and gotten a little wiser, I've done, I'm going to give the best of me to people that mean the most to me. And I used to be a people pleaser, right? And where I would say, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. I actually was mentoring my kids. Yesterday, I have twins. You know that, but the guests may not. I have twins that are 12 years old, and we had a late start in life and parenthood and all that. But they heard me in the car because this guy wanted to meet with me in person, and I just said, I'm sorry, I don't have time to do that. But I've got like 5 minutes now for a quick phone call. He goes, well, no, I really want to meet for about 2 hours in person. I'm like, brother, I don't mean this to be arrogant, but in my mind, I'm going, people pay me a lot of money to meet for an hour. You know, you want 2 hours of my time? I don't even know you. But I feel it's respectful to, reply to people. So I replied, and then he called me. And so I'm like, okay, you never know. Let me see what this gentleman needs. And I finally told him, I said, listen, I can't get time back. I'm giving you the gift of my time right now on this phone call. If that's not good enough for you, then I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I hung up, and I could tell my twins, because I've always taught my twins, treat people with compassion, with love, be nice to them. And they're kind of quiet. Miles is right next to me, and Cooper's in the back seat, and they're quiet. And I go, fellas, let me teach you what was happening right now. The old dad of yours would have said, absolutely, let's go meet. The new dad, that's 2 hours I could spend mentoring these college baseball players. That's 2 hours I could spend with you guys. That's 2 hours I could spend with your mom. That's 2 hours I could be working on myself. Or I'm going to give it to this stranger. I don't even know who this person is. I don't know what's wrong with me, right? And I said, so as you get older, you have to understand, the more success you have, the higher you go, the stronger the wind blows. More people are going to be pulling on you. Like I do podcasts, but I mean, it's hard for me to squeeze in 45 minutes an hour to do a podcast, right? Because I'm busy on purpose. I've got things I'm doing. Like I'm not sitting around waiting for the phone to ring, And so there's a lot of podcasts I turn down. It's just, I mean, you're a friend, so obviously I'm doing this. Entrepreneur Magazine, I do those. Ink Magazine, all that. And there's a lot of other podcasts I do. But if I don't know the person at all, I have no context as to what it is, I'm not going to do it.
Exactly.
And so I just had to teach my boys that there's a difference between wanting to please people and being a people pleaser, right? And so it was interesting how they kind of took that in as kids. They're like, oh, I get it. So this was not your dad being rude or mean. This was your dad guarding his time that he can't get back.
Yeah, I think that's, you kind of touched on leftover time, and I want to jump into a little bit more of that, because I think that's one things that entrepreneurs fail to protect is their time. And especially, at Fatherhood Secrets, I started this channel earlier this year, and I wanted to become a better dad myself, because if you commit to something like this, you can't be a shitty dad by any means. You've got to commit to it, do research, and make sure you're putting out valuable content to connect with people. But as I'm talking to dads that are trying to be entrepreneurs, they have a really tough time juggling the time. And so a lot of them talk about how they'll stop or they'll kind of cease their dream because they're taking time away from their family. And the leftover time is, you hit the nail on the head. It's about guarding your family and guarding what's close to you, and letting your yes be yes and your no be no, and being okay with that.
Yeah, no, it's that's it. When you start a business or start a company, you don't own it. It owns you. Until you can get to the point, like I've been blessed to do, where you can hire a CEO to run the company. You can hire people. Like I don't run the day-to-day of a single company that I have any ownership in. Nothing, right? And that's by choice. But that takes a long time to get a company to that point, right? In the beginning, I mean, your phone's ringing 24/7, 365. And so I just think people have to understand leadership, there's a price to pay. And the currency is grit. And a part of that is you got to be accessible. You have to be around. And, I told my wife, I said, I'm done starting companies that I'm going to run until our boys graduate. And then, and depending on what they do with their life, I may start a company with them one day if they want. But in the meantime, I asked my boys. I'll tell you how I got back into college coaching. I mean, every year I get phone calls from athletic directors asking me to be the head coach of their university, and I turned them down. I was coaching my own boys.
Yeah.
Because your son was on the team. And my kids were in the car. Because again, the car, as you all know, it's like a rolling phone now. Right? They can hear the speaker. And so an athletic director was called and said, "Hey, Coach Stout," and I'd actually spoken at their university as their keynote speaker at the leadership event. "Coach Stout, is there any chance you'll come back and be our head baseball? You'll be our head baseball coach. We're looking to make a change, and if you'd be open to it, we'd love for it to be you." And I said, "I appreciate you thinking of me. I'll text you a list of candidates that I think you should interview, but I'm not interested." And that was it. And then Miles and Cooper go, "Hey, Dad, why don't you want to be a college baseball coach again?" "Well, because I don't want to be away from you." "That's why." And they literally look at me. They go, "Dad, we'd actually think it's really cool to be a college baseball." And I go, "Really?" "Well, yeah, because you did that before we were born. We never got to be a part of that. But our dream is to be a college baseball player, professional baseball player, and we think we'd be better players because we could go to the stadium every day. We could, and so basically,
living it.
They're actually the inspiration behind
living it,
doing it. And what was interesting is I was bored out of my mind trying to figure out what I want to do the rest of my life. So, because the kids, I'd take the kids to school every day that I'd have from 8:30 to 3:30, and all I would do is sit there and wait to go pick them up.
You're the carpool dad, the carpool line.
I was the one dad carpool every day.
Yeah, just sitting there.
I would.
So Miles and Cooper, they're 12 years old. Obviously, I know them.
Yeah.
Just awesome kids. What are their dreams, man? What are they into?
Man, they love baseball. It's interesting. I never forced it on them. They came to me and they were like, as soon as they could talk. Yeah. They were Dallas Patriots. Listen, I owned the Dallas Patriots family 25 years ago, and they were in full Dallas Patriots gear, and I was sitting on the couch, and they go, "Hey, Dad, when we get to play baseball, we want you to coach us." And that's how the whole deal is. So they're fired up and passionate about baseball. They love basketball. They love football.
Baseball is their deal.
That's what they love the most. And I think, it's hard not to when they're around. Like yesterday we had a pro day at our stadium. So we had, 20 Major League Scouts sitting there watching our guys. And so they're around it every single day. You become who you hang around. That's how life works. So we always tell you, be careful who you hang around.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this. Miles, man. Miles is. I always connected with Miles for some reason. His like you can see his mind working, and it's interesting because it's not like Cooper's not like that, but Miles, you could like if I'm just watching, I could see the gears turning and how special that is, man, in a young man. But what's funny is our kids are in wrestling now, which I'll have to tell you a little bit about that. But there's a kid in there that looks identical to Miles. Really? And my wife and I look at this kid, and for one, it almost brings tears to my eyes because we miss you guys so much. But I'm like, Miles is sitting here in front of my face. It's wild. And so anyways, wrestling, we got our kids into wrestling to take time off Landon's arm. Landon was throwing for a coach who no longer coaches him, just totally abused his arm. He was up to about 1,200 pitches in the spring.
Oh,
yeah. And in any game they got close up, bring in Landon. Here he is. And the whole Treasure Valley here, the whole Boise region knows him. And it was a nightmare, but we put him in wrestling to give his arm a break and not do anything. And he the kids really don't enjoy wrestling as much, but one thing that wrestling has taught him is I don't think a lot of people understand the adversity you go through when you're standing on the bump. And parents are screaming at you, parents are screaming at the coaches are screaming at you, and wrestling has propelled his mental game more than anything that I could ever do as a dad.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, too many people live life like a paperclip. I was mentoring my kids on this last night. A paperclip can only hold so much, right? If you really want to grow, live a life like a rubber band. A rubber band is worthless if you just hold it up. But when you stretch it, that's when it becomes powerful. That's when that rubber band can hold so much stuff, right? And that's how the human being is. It's like if you just put yourself in a little box, you live in a paperclip life, right? But if you get out of that box and you stretch and you live a rubber band life, what happens is you can call up excellence at a moment's notice because you put yourself in situations where adversity was inevitable. And the more adversity you can go through, the more you're going to grow through it. And that's what people don't understand. Too many of these kids, and it's not the kids, the parents in today's world, they try to hide their kid from adversity. And they're literally destroying them for their lives. Because adversity is going to come no matter where you are. Moms, guess what? You have adversity when you get pregnant, right? Guys, we work for a living. Women can work for a living. I mean, it's everywhere you go, there's adversity. Driving down the road, people don't know how to drive anymore. If you notice this, people don't know how to drive. It's crazy. Yeah. And so your EQ, your emotional intelligence, is something that grows. Your IQ stops growing at 21, 22, but your EQ can grow forever. And what does that mean? Your emotional intelligence, how you respond to day-to-day adversity, right? Your response is what matters. It's not the adversity, it's how you respond to it. And so when you talk about, being a pitcher or wrestling, what you're doing is you're giving your son a chance over and over and over again to face adversity. And that gives you more and more opportunities to overcome adversity and be stretched. And I just, I'll tell you candidly, one of the reasons I moved to Arkansas was I wanted my kids out of the plush, ritzy lifestyle of Frisco, Texas, living in a club and mansions, and
I was shocked to hear that you moved to Arkansas.
But I actually, it's funny, you can probably hear me saying this because you heard me speak to the kids. We were playing a game, Miles Cooper's team, last summer, and they were 11U, I guess. And no, it was the summer before that. They were 10U. And we had a bunch of great kids, great families, but just spoiled. Every game they'd come, they have a brand new $300 bat.
Yeah.
You got 10 kids with $300 bats. We got 2 hits.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's like, and they're just babying them. Anytime you coach the kid, the parents are like, hey, And I said to all the kids, the Stout family is moving out of this ridiculous bubble.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, my kids went to a lemonade stand in our neighborhood, and I'm not going to say the Dallas Cowboys because he's a good dude. He drives by and gives a $100 bill. I'm like, that's not why we're doing it. I'm trying to teach my kids to go work for money.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
you don't need a donation.
Yeah, it's like, no, you don't work. And so I just told my wife, I grew up third floor. My mom raised me, my little brother. I worked full time to the age of 12. And so, I'm grateful to be able to provide for my kids and give them the lifestyle that people dream about.
Yeah.
But I told my wife, I said, we are leaving Frisco, Texas. I don't know where. I'm going to pray on it. God's going to give us clarity, but there will be a reason for us to leave.
Yeah.
We used to take walks in the morning with our dog. And I said, honey, we're selling the house. And she goes, well, where are we going? I go, I'm just telling you, you can't say you have faith. You can't say that you trust the Holy Spirit to guide your life and then try to control everything. I said, so we're going to do something that's going to be very, and when that's a multi-million-dollar home, it's not like a small decision. And I said, we're selling it.
Yeah.
So we had sold the house. We had like a 60-day lease back, whatever. I said, watch. The opportunity is going to come. Then the whole college baseball thing happened.
Yeah.
And I got offered multiple head coaching jobs, but we chose Arkansas because A, it's beautiful here. I didn't know anything about Arkansas. Beautiful here. B, there's no traffic. C, it's the natural state. So the water and the air quality is amazing, unlike Frisco, Texas. And then D, Torrey Hunter called. So Torrey Hunter's a dear friend. We own a few companies together. Torrey's a Hall of Famer. He's from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. And Torrey was like, Logan, be awesome if you'd be our head baseball coach, blah, 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 And so that was it. And so it was awesome. I played basketball growing up,
Yeah.
And my kids love basketball. So I said, I found this coach who coaches in middle school. In Arkansas, you can go play on these middle school teams. And they're coming from this private Christian little bubble of wealthy people. And now they're in a public middle school. Right? They're actually not going to that school, but they're allowed to participate in school.
Yeah. Against
dudes who can ball. This is not. These are dudes who can ball, and there are no fouls. And it's a whole different. It's how I grew up.
Yeah. Just a different type of athlete.
And and they are loving it.
Yeah.
I've been on them. I'm like, this isn't the real world, dude. Like, and so now they're getting to see, right? And what I'm very proud of is they're doing great. They love it. These guys have become their best buddies here. It's like they never even skipped a beat, and it's just a much better environment, in my opinion, to raise a man versus to raise a spoiled brat. And so that's how I got to Arkansas.
So Arkansas, in relation to Little Rock, where are you?
Okay, so we actually live in a community in West Little Rock. So that's where we live. And then Pine Bluff is from Little Rock downtown. It's about 35-minute drive, 38. Perfect, straight shot, no traffic. And what's great for me as a college coach is I get to do my recruiting calls, right? So when I walk in the door, I'm able to get all those calls out of the way and be present as a dad. And so I normally don't like commutes. All the other companies I owned were a couple miles from my front door. On purpose. That's right.
That's true. That's true. I remember one time we were talking about Prosper, Texas, and Prosper is where we were. And Prosper, I mean, I couldn't believe I was surrounded with the people, the friend group that I had. And I asked you one time, hey, why don't you come out here to Prosper? And you're like, it's too far away from an airport. And I'm like, dude, it's 40 minutes down the road.
I know. It's so funny now, but it's, I don't know. Maybe I was living a paperclip life. I hate traffic. Hate's a strong word. I hate traffic. And so, so what's great is this is a long commute, but there's no traffic.
Yeah. So you're a straight shot.
Straight
shot. So let's jump into, let's move the conversation to, I want to talk more about the recruiting thing. And I am a firm believer in return on relationships, and there's a component of my life is meeting as many people as I can and connecting organically with as many people as I can, just to build relationships. And that means that's part of it will help with recruiting, and that's my belief, because if Landon is 6'6", kind of where I hang out, and he's left-handed, there's going to be a million left-handed pitchers that are 6'6", even there's so many of them. And I think what people don't see is the relational value that you could potentially make. So every time we travel, we go to Utah, we go to Oregon, we go to California, we go, we're primarily on the West Coast now, but I'm trying to shake hands with as many people as I can, because the relationship side of recruiting is, I think, a piece that people are missing.
Well, I think anything great came from the right who. And so I believe in relationships are paramount. Everything I've done in my life has been the byproduct of a who. Somebody that opened the door for me, somebody introduced me to something, or people that I hired to help execute the plan. I may have the vision, but I need the operator to go execute wherever my vision is. And people overlook the who, and they put too much value on the what. And I always say, you can be at the greatest vacation spot in the world with the wrong who, it's a nightmare. You can be stuck in rush hour traffic with the right who, it's a dream. And so the who matters. Recruiting wise, I can't talk about recruiting. I don't want to violate the NCAA rules on here. We have a ton of them at the divisional level, but I think recruiting, if I'm talking to any human being, forget recruiting for baseball, recruiting in general in life. You want people opening doors for you. You want people willing to vouch for you. And the only way you do that is by being relational, right? Building a real relationship. Why am I on this podcast? Because you and I built a real relationship.
Yeah.
Right? And you've always done a great job of being intentional of building relationships and adding value and making a difference. And that's why we're friends. And and in your case for you, that would serve your son well, your kids well, right? Because and I teach my boys that. Everywhere we go with my boys, I said, they'll ask me, I'm not going to name drop here, but I've been very fortunate to do life with the most famous people in the world, right? And they'll call and they'll be like, Dad, how do you know that person? How do you know that person? We're in the Bahamas, and I'm walking, I hear Logan, and I look over, and it's Shaq. And so I go, hey man, what are you up to? And so Shaq, I bring my kids. There's a harbor there in Marina where the yachts are, and Shaq's on there for his birthday. And so we're going there. We're telling him he's wrestling with Cooper, and we're hanging out. So anyway, we get done, and Miles people are like, Dad, how do you know Shaq? I'm like, man, well, there was a guy that I was mentoring who introduced this guy. Well, he wanted to meet, blah, 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 blah. And that's how we met and we connected. And that's it. And he's like, yeah, so cool. And then it's like, so I'm mentoring my kids on everything you do and say is going to impact someone in some way.
Yep.
You never know that person's network or that person's network. But what I do know is if that person trusts you, they will trust you with their network.
Yep.
And that is, trust is the glue of every relationship, right? So it goes from stranger, acquaintance, right? Acquaintance to friend to trusted friend.
Yeah.
And I just think it's really important that these kids, they live in such a connected world that they're so disconnected.
Totally.
I say kids, it's adults. I mean, they're on social media all the time.
All the time.
They're in touch with everybody, but I'm doing recruiting calls every day, every single day with prospects, high school kids, college kids that want to transfer, whatever it is, on a time of year. And it's amazing to me how few of them have good communication skills.
Yeah.
So we have one of the things I mentor our student athletes on is how to communicate. Because we're on ESPN, we're on, and I'm like, if you're in an in-game interview, a post-game interview, I don't want to hear, So it's like mentoring them on how to do it. And, but to your point, relationships are key. But how relationships?
The quality of being able to verbalize yourself is huge. Yeah. And so as a coach, and I'll link this back to the first time I met you, and you handed Landon a piece of paper. On that piece of paper, it required his signature, and it was his signature at 6 years old. I thought it was the craziest thing, but what it was a public declaration of commitment that connected his accountability to the process. It wasn't about winning baseball games, although in that first year we lost a lot of baseball games. The second year we were the best in Texas, best team in Texas, and I can lobby to say maybe in Oklahoma as well. But you trust the process, and you don't fall in love with the immediate result, because that first year we lost a ton of games. It was 26-2, 28-3, and you can understand the process was much more important than winning. And that little piece of paper that he had to sign, we had a conversation about, hey, this means commitment, buddy. This is what it is.
Well, it's so interesting. I have so many people that, they'll ask me, well, why do you have contracts? I mean, I go, because the kids need to understand what it means to honor and fulfill your commitment to something. Yeah. I mean, you look at youth sports, it's a train wreck, and it's because of the parents. I mean, to the good ones out there, God bless you. Hope you can rub off on the rest of them. But I mean, one thing doesn't go little Johnny's way, they'll pick up and they're on another team. Mm-hmm. And then it's not just the parents' fault, it's a lot of the coaches' fault. A lot of these coaches are just not good. And the issue you have is, they haven't been trained. They haven't been trained properly. They don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
It's a compound effect. So, we moved to Arkansas. There was just a team my kids are playing for. It was so bad. And this guy played college baseball. And I was trying to be nice, trying to be cordial. I said, man, I don't want to coach my kids. I love being able to just be a dad. But brother,
I would love to see you in the stands as a parent.
Oh my gosh, brother, it was Miles and Cooper learned more when they were 8 years old than this entire coach probably knows. And that's not the coach's fault. He's doing the best he can.
Yeah.
He doesn't know any better.
Yeah.
Right? And that's part of our problem. Is you have youth sports and people aren't having to go through coaching certifications. They're not being held accountable. And that's where, like the Dallas Patriots, we hold these guys accountable. Like, I'm not involved with the Patriots anymore. I mean, my wife, and it's in a family trust, but I don't have anything to do with it because I can't. The NCAA rules. But when we were with the Patriots, I mean, coaching clinics, guy didn't do his job, he was fired. I mean, this is how we operate here.
Virtual clinics too. I remember you doing virtual clinics, and here's what I will say. I coach football at the high school level here in Boise, and I'm around a ton of youth coaches, and I've had multiple speaking engagements on how to coach, how to game plan. But a piece of it is you'll see coaches overreact in games because of their lack of consistent production in a practice or a different setting, and so they're ill-equipped to kind of go through a scenario that happens in real time, and then the coach loses their mind. We had a coach one time, you guys don't think you want to play football. You guys aren't acting like you want to even be out here. Why'd you wake up this morning? And I was saying, Coach, if you just shift them over one gap, you left a gap open. If you shift them over one gap, you win that game. You stop them in that moment. And he was diverting his insecurities on the kids. And no telling how many kids said, I don't want to play football anymore. I don't want to put in the effort, and they get screamed at.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, this is I could go on for a month on this stuff.
Yeah.
I think ultimately the bottom line you have is going back to the point you made, is kids need to learn commitment, right? They need to learn commitment. I mean, you have ghosting now. You'll have these 20-something-year-olds, they'll just not show up to work anymore. And they're learning all this stuff from how they're being raised. How they're being raised is where they're learning all this stuff, right? Things get tough, they just move on to the next one. And I mean, it's unbelievable to me. I mean, some of these kids will graduate from high school having worn 30 different uniforms. The way I grew up is you were loyal to a team. That's who you played. I'll tell you this, as a college coach, I look for that.
Yeah.
I want to see how many teams has this guy been on.
Yeah.
Because if they just jump, that tells you, right? They just jump ship and things don't go their way. Jump ship.
When it gets tough, they jump ship.
Yeah, we live in a transfer portal world. I look for dudes, man. I'm very upfront on when I recruit. I tell the 5 things I look for in a player. I'm blunt because I believe the right leadership will naturally attract the right people and repel the wrong people, because the winners stretch to that vision, rubber band. The whiners run from that vision. Yeah. And so
what are those 5 things you look for?
Well, number one, I look for people that want to grow, and this is not, I can't talk recruiting. This is what I look for in companies when I hire people. There's 5 things I look for. Number one, a person that wants to grow as a person. They want to grow as a leader, because when you grow, everything around you grows. So I'm looking for people that want to grow as a leader, because every day I'm pouring into the people that I'm doing life with. Right? I'm not just there to coach baseball or run a company or whatever I'm doing. I'm there to add value and make a difference in your life, help you think better, because thoughts lead to actions, actions lead to habits, habits lead to results. Thoughts, actions, habits, results. So people have these uphill dreams. The problem is they have downhill habits. You can't go uphill with downhill habits, you have uphill habits. So I'm looking for people who want to grow as a human, right? Number 2, I'm looking, like in this case, I look for people who want to grow as a player. In business, I look for people that want to grow as a professional, right? So they're coachable. They want to get better. They realize they have a lot of room to grow. Number 3, I look for people that absolutely cannot stand losing. Winners find a way to win, losers find a way to lose. So I look for people that cannot stand losing. Number 4, I look for people that are great teammates, because individuals play the game, but teams win championships. So, no, there is no such thing as, somebody that did it on their own. That doesn't exist. And so that doesn't mean you can't be the catalyst. That doesn't mean you're not the visionary, but it takes a group to make anything happen.
It's a mastermind.
I look for people that are great teammates. And number 5, I look for people that understand how to bring great energy, right? So you're an energy vampire, as John Gordon says, or you're an energy provider. And so to me, it's a combination of 3 things that are non-negotiables. These are non-negotiables because you can control these 3 things. No matter what's happening in your life, you can control these 3 things: your attitude, your effort, and your focus. I've never, of the thousands of keynote speeches I've given and people I've mentored and CEOs and executives, I've never in my life said, hey, what's the key to your success? Logan, horrible effort, bad attitude, and lack of focus is the key to my success. And so I look for those 3 things. And, from an energy standpoint, so those are the 5 things I look for. And obviously, depending on the environment I'm in, I dive deep into those subject matters and almost to the point to scare them away. And at the end of it, I'll ask, hey, how do you think you fit into those 5? And if there's a hesitation, you're not my person.
Not your guy.
They're like, I love it. That's the T. I'm all 5 of those. I'm like, let's go. Let's do it.
So I've heard, so now there's everybody's on social media, every baseball coach, and I've heard little snippets from Vanderbilt and from Texas A&M. I can't remember their names, but a lot of them will say when they're recruiting players, they watch them from the time they get out of their car until the time they get back in their car. They want to know what their interactions are with their parents, with their teammates, because if you're recruiting somebody, they can play. You already know that particular skill set is there, or else you wouldn't be recruiting them.
Right.
But do you kind of follow that same mindset of hey, let's watch how this kid interacts?
Yeah, I'll just look at their social media. Like, what are they reposting? What are they liking? That tells me their interest level right there. And then a lot of times, I don't meet their parents or deal with their parents at this point, but we'll watch how their parents act in things.
Yeah.
Right? The apple doesn't fall from the tree typically. I always tell parents, you're either an asset for your child or you're a liability. You choose. And
how many kids do you think you've turned away because parents are over the top? And I'm talking, and I remember a circumstance, we were playing in a game, and I don't know if you remember this, but you may. I won't drop the name because the family may see this. Kid gets up, strikes out, and his dad is behind the dugout and just giving him the F-bombs. And you turned around and you said, you need to leave right now. And, it's a deterrent. It's a huge deterrent. If parents are overreacting, I've seen fights in the stands. I've seen, and this is youth sports. I can't imagine what you've seen at the college level.
Yeah, well, the college level, we don't deal with the parents at all. We're dealing with young men. These are men. They're old enough to vote, right? And so we're dealing with young men, and so I don't deal with the youth. I do remember that instance because it's first and only time. Like 26 years of doing this, I've witnessed it, and I can tell you this: that man is a good man.
Yeah.
And that kid's a great kid, and I think sometimes as parents we're all guilty of this, and I'm raising my hand.
Yeah.
We're all guilty of wanting something for our child even more so than our child wants it for themselves sometimes. And I think sometimes as a parent, you can't help but look at your little baby and okay, that's a reflection of me.
Yeah.
Right? You can't help but see that. Or maybe like if you're out there putting in all this extra work and then it's just not clicking in the game, it can drive you crazy as a dad, it can drive you crazy as a coach.
Yeah.
And so I think, again, if we go back to EQ, emotional intelligence, it's not what happens, it's how we respond. Right? And that I remember that moment, and that was my way of basically making it very clear that's not going to go on in anything I'm a part of. And but again, I think he's a great man. I think a great family, great kid. He had a really bad moment, and I think going back to what I referenced earlier with coaches not being good, he may have been raised that way. Right, so we have to always remember from a compassion. The older I've gotten, the more compassionate I've become to people's actions. Where I realize no one's purposely trying to be bad. Right? They're not waking up. I think I'm gonna go do whatever I can to ruin my kid's game today. Like, I don't think any parent says that, right? I think a lot of times we don't understand. We don't know what we don't know. We all have blind spots, right? And a lot of times you get the compound effect. We're simply regurgitating how we were raised. We're regurgitating the environment we're in. I always say, you start hanging around a certain group of people long enough, you're going to start dressing like them. You're going to start talking like them. You start listening to the same music. And that's one reason I told my wife, Haley, my best friend from 7th grade, I said, hey, we're going to have nice homes, not because we need a nice home. We're going to have nice homes because I want our kids' friends to want to come over to our house.
Yeah.
Because when we see who our kids are hanging out with, that'll show us who our kids are becoming. And thankfully, all the kids our boys have been hanging out with have been great kids and great dudes. There's never been a time they've had someone come over the house that I'm like, okay, I'll never bring them over again, right?
Never again.
It's
I don't think you turn away kids, man. I don't think you had it in you. I can tell you this. If I said, hey, can Landon go stay with you for the summer? I don't think you could say no. I honestly don't think in your heart that you can say, no, I don't want that kid to come over. Yeah. I think I can almost bet that you've done that in the past, because you just, for one, I don't think you can say no to kids very well. But it comes from a leadership perspective where you know that God's given you a gift to pour into somebody and fill their bucket.
Well, I think all of us want to be valued, all of us, and kids especially, man, they're so fragile in today's world, especially. Well, it's interesting. You say that. Before we had children of our own, I mean, my wife and I had 10 kids live at our house. They needed a place to live, whatever the circumstance, right? No parents or whatever. And so those are fun days, mentoring and children of God that had never, it was so funny. One year we had about 16 or 10, 16, 17 high school kids, and they'd come into dirty clothes, right? And I said, you're going to wash your own clothes.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, how do I do that? Because Haley, my wife, she'll do everything. And I have to get on her and go, honey, they need to do that on their own. They need to do it on their own. So I call them a family huddle. Because they're not my blood family, but they're my family of choice, right?
Yeah.
And I call them all in, and Haley's there. I go, close. That's my wife, Haley. She's not your maid. She's not going to do your laundry. I'm going to teach you how to do your laundry right now. Here's how this is going to operate. After that, you're going to go meet in the kitchen. Instead of my wife cooking for you all the time, we're going to teach you how to make your own food.
Yeah.
Because you're about 2 years away, going off to college, right? And so I still, those kids will still to this day, because now they have kids, right?
Yeah.
And they will call me and they'll laugh and just share stories about the first time I made them, cook a meal, the first time I made them clean, the first time and now they'll ask me, okay, remind me exactly how you did that to me, because I need to do that to my son now.
Yes.
It's so funny, man. These kids, it's so heartwarming knowing that,
like we spoke earlier about, there's just so many families where the father is not there, and then families that have, maybe the dad's in the home and they get out of work and all they do is kick up their feet, they have a beer, and like you said, it's hump day, I'm preparing for the weekend, so how many beers am I going to get this weekend and drink it, and they're not leading their kids. And something is taking responsibility for your own laundry, taking responsibility for your own space, your room, taking responsibility for your grades. I think as a man that grew up without a dad in the home, that's what I wish I had. I wish I had somebody to hold me accountable for those things, because as an adult, that stuff's hard to learn. That is hard to learn as an adult.
Yeah, well, it's again, no one ever said life is going to be easy. It's not going to be, but it can be a lot easier when you take an ownership mindset, right? When you own the situation, own the outcome, own the results, own the process. And that's the biggest thing I try to get across to kids. Like, I don't want to hear, you don't have clean socks. That means you're playing the victim.
Yeah.
You are in control of having clean socks. You are in control. Don't tell me you didn't get your 80 grams of protein. You're an athlete.
Yeah.
Right? I taught you how to cook. Go make your food. Right? We taught you how to go make money. Go buy food. And so it's really the difference between enabling, which I see a lot of parents doing. They enable their kids versus empowering their kids.
Yeah.
I told my boys, I said, just because your mom and dad have tons of money, I am not buying you a car.
Yeah.
Okay? You're going to go make your own money, and you're going to go get your own car. The same way your dad had to do it.
Yeah.
Allowance. That's the thing. Allowance. We don't do allowance in the Stout household. You wonder why? Because Miles and Cooper are part of the Stout team. And being a part of this team, they have responsibilities of being a good teammate. Right? Yeah. I'm not going to pay you to clean your room. I'm not going to pay you to do the dishes. No. You're going to do those because you're part of the team. Period. Like, if you read a great book, right, and you go do something that adds value to the world, guess what? The world will pay you.
Yeah.
My kids. I don't want this.
I was listening to.
I don't want this to scare anybody that might be listening to this, but I get paid a lot of money to do a speaking game, and I don't have to tell them about that stuff. again, I'm in the car and they can hear it on the speaker, and and they're like, we have 50 grand for you to come do this, blah blah blah. And so I go, yeah, sounds good. Just email the stuff over, and we'll get all the paperwork done. I'll be in Miami to speak at your event. And Miles, for your reference, his brain's ticking. And you're so dead on about him, by the way. And Miles really goes, Dad, you're gonna get paid that much to speak for 1 hour? I go, yeah, I didn't want you to hear that, but yeah. And they go, well, you should just do that all the time.
When you go back to the time thing, I think the trap we fall into is exchanging time for money.
Yeah.
I think we're conditioned from a young age to exchange time for money. You got to earn an hourly rate. And
what's so funny too? He brought that up. He goes, "With 50 grand for now." I said, "Buddy, I do something for a lot less than that."
Yeah,
I'm not even close. And he goes, "Well, why?" Because some companies can't afford that. I go, guess what? Some companies I really want to support them. There's an insurance company that I do a quarterly mentorship session with. I'm available to their CEO and COO kind of anytime they need me. I'm on retainer, and it's less than what I get this particular event I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I was telling them, I go, hey, they're adding value. They're great people, and so I'm doing it to make a difference for them.
Yeah.
They don't have 50 grand for you to come speak for 1 hour. They don't have that. And so I don't ever want the money to be a reason I can't make a difference for a group of people that I want to make a difference for.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and went, he goes, that's interesting. And I go, buddy, Miles told me this years ago. I don't know where he got it from. But I said, Miles, you remember what you told me one time? I got off a phone call, and it was a tough situation, but you looked at me and your innocent mind, and you said, Dad, all the kindness that you put in the world will always find a way to come back to you. Little Miles told me that. He said, Dad, all the kindness you put in the world will always find a way to come back to you. And so I reminded him of what he told me.
Yeah, yeah.
I said, so how do you know, Miles, that me discounting it and helping this company out isn't the reason why that company called?
Yeah, exactly.
Just do things the right way for the right reasons, and just the kindness you put in the world, it's karma. It's going to find a way to come back to you. Anyway,
exactly. So back to baseball for a second. Are you rebuilding a program? Do you consider it a rebuild, or I'm assuming their coach left? I don't know what the circumstances are. They kind of Torrey Hunter reached out to you. I can understand that, but what do you think? Are you rebuilding, and how is that going?
Yeah, I brought in 30 new players in 3 weeks. Brand new coaching staff. We did the entire schedule. Brand new jerseys, brand new hats, brand new everything. So it's they've struggled for various reasons. Some things they can control, some things outside of their control. And their former head coach is a friend. He's a good dude. I was actually with him yesterday, and in his own words, he said I should have retired seven years earlier. And I hate to use the word rebuild. I'd rather say build upon. I think rebuild to me is almost like an insult to the people that were there ahead of it. My deal is we're just going to add to what's been done so far.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, in the world's eyes, it's a complete rebuild, right? They've gone from last place in a Division One, one of the worst records in Division One college baseball for a few years in a row now. Seeing what we do this year, I think, again, it's hard when you don't have a whole lot of time to put a team together in 3 weeks. And it was at the end of the summer, so most all the kids were committed. But I'm very blessed by the young men that I've had the honor to coach. I think they can accomplish anything they put their mind to. I think they can make history, and I would not bet against these young men. I'll put it that way. And so, and I don't use
especially with you there. I think
no gambling. When I say bet, I mean I would love for people to come out to University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. Our schedule's on the website. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we'll play the big boys. We'll play Arkansas at Dickey Stevens. It'll be 20,000 people there probably. So games are streaming and on television, so it's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, it's going to be
Yeah. So listen, before I let you off, I know you're at a time crunch here, but this is the one question that I have written down that I wanted to ask you. And it could be overall, it could be business as a dad, as a baseball coach, your relationships, but what do you think your greatest accomplishment is as an adult male that is leading people? What is your greatest accomplishment?
My wife and kids, yeah, by far, that's my greatest accomplishment.
Yeah. You know, um, I appreciate you and I appreciate the time you spent. I know it's precious. For people that don't know, it took about a week to get on this podcast, on this platform. And so, I appreciate the time that you've taken just to come speak. Covering a ton of things from baseball to parenting to success overall, and you know what's going on in your world, anything that you want to share, new book coming out, speaking engagements, what can we see in a public sense from Logan Stout?
Yeah, I think really I'm just focused on coaching college baseball, and so obviously uh, I'll be out and about there. And then I'm really just focused on speaking engagements. I find it's a great way to make a big impact in a short period of time. So those are the main things I'm focused on. Uh, I've got books inside of me, but no desire or the time to write a new one right now. But I'm speaking on them. But no, really, I think just coaching college baseball. And obviously, I love doing speaking engagements and helping companies and people and mentoring groups of people. So I'm doing a lot of that. But that's what I'm up to, and then trying to be the best dad and husband possible.
I thank you. And for those who are interested in Logan's books, I will put them in the description below. And that way you can grab them and use them to pour into your life, man, just like they poured into mine. So thanks, Coach, man. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, and people are welcome to connect with me too. All my stuff's at loganstout.com. That's where all my social media stuff is. So appreciate you, brother. Proud of what you're doing with Fatherhood Secrets, man. That was a fun convo. It was good to catch up.
Yeah. See you, Coach.